is the Emotion Connection, where you'll experience health through feeling. Explore emotion from a different perspective and learn to use your emotions to improve your day to day life. Introducing your host, speaker, author, mentor, and creator of emotional strength, Sharon Faye. Sharon heads up a successful business empowering leaders to bring about organizational development and cultural change. Get your senses ready as we delve into the many facets of emotion together. Over to Sharon.
Hello, I'm Sharon Faye. Emotion is my thing. Our podcast today is a deep dive into uncomfortable feelings. And the structure of today's podcast is, what are uncomfortable feelings? What happens if you get stuck in your comfort zone? Your relationship to pain. Building capacity for discomfort or pain. What makes something uncomfortable? Uncomfortable is a judgment. What is uncomfortable for one person is not uncomfortable for another. It's subjective. Everyone is different. We hear about thresholds for pain, like she has a high pain threshold, or he has a low pain threshold. Does that mean that one person can tolerate more pain than another? Discomfort and pain are subjective, so how can anyone know enough to compare? They are not measured on an interval scale, so there's no reliable measure of pain because it's subjective. The best we can do is ask the person on a scale of 1 to 10, how intense is the pain right now? With 1 being minimal and 10 being the most intense, the person will answer subjectively. And what does uncomfortable feel like? You may judge the sensation to be uncomfortable if it's unfamiliar to you. Have you experienced this discomfort before, or have you felt something similar? Some people perceive themselves as fragile, living in a dangerous world. If that's the case, you may not be very tolerant in unfamiliar situations. If you've experienced trauma in your life, you may have been exposed to intense sensations and not be so worried. If you have high anxiety, you may be less tolerant of unfamiliar or uncertain situations. The best remedy to building capacity for feeling uncomfortable is to expose yourself to as many different life experiences as possible. And parents, you're not doing your children any favours by mollycoddling them. The more parents wrap their precious ones in cotton wool, the less tolerant the child is likely to be. We need to teach children to be flexible. Flexibility is the key to building capacity. When parents protect their children from the world as it is, they grow up naive and gullible. Later, when they're faced with something unfamiliar or scary, they won't know how to respond. Your job is to teach children life skills, to live in an adult world in a healthy way. There are many types of uncomfortable experiences. We have uncomfortable sensations, feelings, emotional and physical pain. You may be able to tolerate physical pain better than emotional pain. I had this experience many years ago. I became curious about how I tolerate pain. As an athlete, I noticed that I could tolerate knee pain easier than I could handle the pain in my chest when I felt hurt. We call that heartbreak or strong disappointment. The pain of a torn meniscus feels sharp, intense, and constant. How could I keep running like I did in the Boston Marathon last year with a torn meniscus? Very curious. Is it a strong pain threshold? And heartbreak is like an ache in my chest that I was less tolerant of. Didn't hurt as much on the physical side. And this was very curious to me, so I decided to do an experiment on myself. I focused on the ache in my chest when I felt hurt, and sensitive people feel hurt a lot more than others. And I practiced and practiced until I built a strong muscle or a high capacity for it. Now when I feel hurt, I feel the ache, and sometimes the ache is very deep. What happens if you get stuck in your comfort zone? Well, what happens is complacency. And when you become complacent, you can't be bothered. Everything feels like a chore. You want to just cruise along in life, not feeling much at all. I often say that complacency is the cancer of our society. You cannot learn in your comfort zone. You must step out of your comfort zone to learn. You can step out into the slightly uncomfortable zone if you want to, or you might step out into the oh no zone. And for those of you who want more of a challenge, I'm a bit like this, a bit of an emotional skydiver. If you want more of a challenge, step into the oh beep zone. This is the zone that is more like a paradigm shift. The great thing about the zones is that you can make your own decision about which zone you step into and learn from. Practical examples of the zones are the slightly uncomfortable zone might be to call a friend that you haven't spoken to in a long time. Or the oh no zone might be taking a risk by speaking up to your partner when you've been mute for so long. The oh beep zone may be catching an aeroplane when you're afraid of flying. Getting stuck in your comfort zone means going through the motions. Every day is Groundhog Day. Every day is the same. You're either not challenged or you avoid challenges. To avoid feeling uncomfortable, you may comfort eat or binge out on your most comforting behaviour. Some people binge out on food, some TV, some alcohol, whatever your favourite binging behaviour is. You shut any uncomfortable feeling down by avoiding, distracting, numbing, justifying and rationalising. Everything is predictable when you're in your comfort zone until you're not. I think of feeling in two ways. The first sort of feeling is sensations in your body, and the second is emotion. Sensations are a response to hot or cold, for example. You put your hand on the stove and it's hot, or you put your hand in the fridge and it's cold. Emotion is more difficult to detect in your body, especially when you've been numb for a long time. To change this numbing behaviour, first you need to change your view on what you've learned in your life. Negative emotion is bad. or it's a problem. Secondly, just start to feel something, anything will do. You might take your shoes off and feel the prickly grass or the rough sand underneath your feet. You might paddle your feet in the water and feel the freezing cold. You may feel the cool water trickling down your throat when you take a drink. Thirdly, practice, practice, practice. Once you're in your body feeling, you might venture to feeling physical or emotional discomfort or pain. So what's your relationship to discomfort or pain? What does uncomfortable feel like for you? It might be unfamiliar or unexpected. You may judge it as bad. You may be scared of feeling uncomfortable. These feelings are subjective. It is different for everyone. And then, what is pain? How do you respond to pain? Do you go straight for the Panadol or the Nurofen? I'm always curious about these things because I'm not scared of needles for some reason. I don't have a phobia of needles like so many others. I don't feel pain when the needles are put into my body like acupuncture or dry needling. I might describe some of the needles. They may sting, or sometimes I may feel like a referred sensation shooting down my leg, but most of the time I don't feel anything. And yet some people are afraid of needles. The fear is that it's going to hurt. And of course, you'll be right about that. Some people are fearful before anything happens. A person's tolerance to discomfort or pain has been informed by past experiences and the meaning you give to sensations that you judge to be negative. You can observe this when a toddler falls over and you can hear the thud, and onlookers react with, The toddler is fine until it hears the adult's noise and then cries, not due to any physical discomfort, but from the fright of hearing the adult's noise of, uh-oh, something's wrong. You may feel uncomfortable when someone at work speaks to you in a direct tone. You can feel your heartbeat faster, or you become on guard, waiting for something to happen. Chances are you're not used to people speaking directly to you like that. You may be used to people beating around the bush or telling you gently. All of us need to work toward being more flexible in life, rather than relying on what we're used to. When you are building emotional strength, you will be able to respond in an open and vulnerable way in the face of anything that is presented to you. How freeing is that? It's amazing. Building capacity for discomfort or pain. This is the first step in building capacity for the things that you judge as negative. There is another way of looking at so-called negative emotion. There's actually no such thing as positive or negative emotion. We just judge that to be the case. We judge emotion as positive or negative. It is not the truth. For example, most people judge anxiety to be a negative emotion, but we need a healthy dose of anxiety to increase our performance at work or when we're running. The tip around anxiety is that if your anxiety spikes too high, you'll experience a performance drop. The trick is to build capacity for anxiety so the spikes don't happen very often. Ideally, we want to feel anxious for the right reasons at the appropriate intensity. And when the exam is over, the anxiety drops again until next time. And remember, I always say this, but I'll say it again. I'm always talking about non-clinical anxiety. Anxiety as a feeling, not as a mental health issue. So I'm not ever referring to mental health issues here. And the same with the emotion anger, not to be confused with aggression, violence, or any other behaviour. People will feel angry when there's a perceived injustice or a boundary that needs to be put in place. Feeling anger does not mean you will act out. The idea is to build a capacity for anger, and then you won't act out. You are safe when you are in your body and feeling. Remember, you can't hurt yourself or anyone else when you're in your body and feeling. Young people often feel awkward when they're not comfortable in their own body. They need to build a capacity for awkwardness so that this uncomfortable feeling is in the moment. You feel it, and that's all. Emotion is fleeting. If you are experiencing emotion for longer than that, you are suffering, not feeling. It is interesting how people are catching on to building capacity for being uncomfortable. I saw last night in the Australian newspaper that Fiona Brown, in the Brittany Higgins case, spoke about her journey of being falsely accused. And she was quoted as saying, "I have to lean into my discomfort to find comfort." Now that's interesting. Everyone will give a different meaning to what she means by this. But I found it fascinating that I've been talking about these things for 30 years, and now I read about similar ideas in mainstream media. It's very exciting. I don't use the words lean in. I prefer to use the word connect to the feeling that we judge as discomfort. And when you're practicing emotional strength, you're not attempting to get a good outcome. That's not the goal. When you trust the process, the outcome will be what the outcome is. You don't need to control, plan, or hope for a good outcome, because when you trust yourself, you will respond to whatever challenges you face. You'll know that whatever presents itself in life, you can respond. And your body intelligence will take care of the rest. So to recap, what are uncomfortable feelings? Well, I've talked about uncomfortable feelings being a judgment, and they're definitely subjective. And what happens if you get stuck in your comfort zone? Complacency, screaming complacency. Oh, it's a cancer of our society. We really need to snap out of complacency. Your relationship to discomfort or pain. My question to you is, are you scared of pain? It's an interesting question for you to explore. And finally, building capacity for discomfort or pain. So I've said that pain is not wrong or bad. You just need to feel it and see what happens. Your homework this week is to practice being aware of your feelings. And when you can do that consistently, then challenge yourself to become aware of uncomfortable feelings. There is nothing you need to do. Just feel the aching, the stinging, burning, the sharp or the dull sensations in your body. and see what happens. Take an interest in your body and be curious. When you can consistently do that, challenge yourself to feel moments of anxiety or sadness or frustration when you get annoyed or irritated. If you are feeling as I mean feeling, the emotion shouldn't last any more than a few seconds or minutes. See if you can connect to whatever presents in your body. There is nothing else to do but feel, and your body systems will do the rest. And our next podcast next week will be about the truth about managing or controlling emotion. That's interesting because this is what we've been taught. We have to control or manage. So that'll be a fascinating topic. I'll see you next time.
Well, that's a wrap. The Emotion Connection is produced by Sharon Faye and her team at sharonfaye.com. With a vision to help people feel, this is just one way we're spreading the word. Sharon Faye is an engaging speaker with a compelling message. Book her for your next conference to ensure a unique and memorable experience for your audience. We encourage you to engage with Sharon through the podcast. You can also email Sharon directly, sharon@sharonfaye.com. We'd love to hear from you. The Emotion Connection, Season 2, hosted by Sharon Faye. Visit sharonfaye.com to learn more or book Sharon for your next event. See you next time.